Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan haTorah. Amen. All right, let's go to Joshua. You guys have homework. Oh, let's see.
Yeah,
You better, because I'm pretty sure no one's done it home. They're probably still sitting there going, what are we supposed to do?
What lesson last week Saturday?
They will try to set the whole morning yesterday.
Oh, who did that?
They've done it.
Oh, yeah, but they don't take so.
They joined the children's church before.
Oh, so your ace slipped out, eh? So the things we're relying on. No one's allowed to share cheese with us. Alright, so we're sitting at Joshua 12. And I gave you guys some homework.
Yes, the cities.
Yes, there were 31 cities conquered. And I said, that's nice, I can read through an entire list for you, but I gave you a little bit of an indication.
That's supposed to find out the meaning of the names.
Yes, the meaning of the name. So, instead of me doing this, we'll do that. No, Shawnee's keeping quiet. You got them, Martin.
I did them.
Who else has got them? Who else? Oh, jolly good. Good to see everybody comes prepared. Not side by the whole side. Right. Those who have done the homework, once, just do me a favor, let's just take 2 minutes. Just read through in your mind, and let all the other people who didn't do your homework know what you did. Just go through your notes, and see if you can put together a story, or if you can see inklings of other things with the places, with the names of the places. All right? Take 2 minutes and just go through that. What do you mean? No. Are you trying to script so you can help them? There we go. Let me control yourself. Yeah. That is correct. That is correct. Oh, there's no wrong. We'll give a share. There's one that's in. And it's in the Bible. It's definitely in the Bible. Definitely. And the meaning of the name. Crush it, that's what you got. There's no wrong. Guys, so you obviously like we do this. What I want you guys to do is obviously you have to start thinking outside the box. It's not just giving you a list of names, that's fine geographically. He's telling you more or less, but also we can just go back a little bit further and remember we've got 4 levels for every section of the Bible. Start to ask the questions, why those specific places? What is he trying to tell us? What are the meanings of these things? Hebrew is all about function, right? So, yeah, we start to see things that weren't there before. Alright, so with your notes, if you've got something different, once it's all done, we'll just add to it, because what I find with this is depending on the source, depending on the root word, some people like to take it back. This is excluding breaking it down in paleo. Alright? You would be able to go and you'd be able to look at it at a different level and see what's going on. We'll take a photo of everything and then we'll send it out.
That last word is from place of MCOM.
Place of Edcon.
Ah, very good, thank you.
Mechanic. Parent.
Yeah,
Which aligns to the watchman on the tower.
Brings us back to the giants.
think Ruth had a parrot, didn't she? Wales not there again. Can never get much of Confederation.
If we got something different,
Sorry, I thought that you guys go back to the last.
Eh?
I thought that you guys go back how many chapters there for the books? All of this.
No, this is just looking at the meanings of names. This is just Joshua 12.
Oh,
So they're going to give you a break, and I'll read through the chapter, but it's going to go through. It literally takes 2.5 minutes, and it just tells you of all the cities that they
I see.
conquered.
Yeah,
Right?
yes. Okay, thanks.
If we've got a different one, we'll edit it.
Yeah, for I, I've got heap of ruins.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll be ruin or something.
For Jerusalem, it seems to say a jewel, talking about the two hills. Where they get it from, I don't know.
I think Jerusalem is actually a depiction of Yahweh. Oh,
Yeah.
God or Yah. Right? While we're there, let's terrorize the guys a little bit. Does anybody know what the word Devorah means?
Deborah, B.
Deborah. Deborah.
B.
Okay, it's a play on the word be, but it also comes from the word Deber. What does Deber mean? Devarim, Deuteronomy,
Words.
many words or words. So again, when you look at the word of God, and it's also a be, what is he trying to tell you?
Sweet.
Word is sweet like
They will pollinate, right? And through it there will be honey and sweetness and things. We know without bees we would have problems, yes?
Is that the word that I think?
Exactly.
What is it going to do?
That's the Yarmouth.
That's mine right
Is Yarmouth is it fearing and throwing down?
Very all.
Mine says elevation.
Like I said, again, when you look at these things, you're going to look at Greek meanings or something like that, and then we have to go back to the Hebrew. A lot of these names don't exist in the Hebrew because Jarmuti is not Jarmuti. When you look at a Hebrew Bible, it says what? Yeah, Yarmouth. So you're going to have slight spelling problems, but it depends. But most of these guys that look at the names obviously look at it from an English, and then they try and go back to the Hebrew and sometimes to the Greek. So that's why you'll pick up discrepancies in the
So
two.
what would it be in Hebrew?
Probably Yarmouth.
Oh, yeah, the one.
Yeah. So there's no J, yeah, B, yeah, and then Tet at the end. Which is no.
They're going to work here virtually, whatever that is.
Huh?
Or eggnog.
Eggnog.
It says virtually. But I want virtually.
That doesn't exist.
The other one they say calf one. Calf. Heifer, yeah.
Gaza is quite appropriate to writing.
Yes. I find quite interesting is when you look at the specifics of each town, you can start already telling about the essence of what's going on there, and then you piece the thing together, and then it says something quite interesting.
oracle.
It's got sanctuary.
It is.
Ah, Tapuzina.
Damn called apple.
Oh, he's very, very sweet.
It was a citrus fruit. So yes. It was that time of year. I find those discussions amazing.
How do you even get that? It's like, do you know the seasons are probably a bit different all the flow?
Yeah, it also doesn't tell you which is where.
Yeah.
Like,
And certain things.
it was a citrus fruit.
Do they even have seasons, like real proper shifts in seasons like we do?
It must have probably not as drastic from one section to the other. But I mean,
Don't you get got cold? Like,
No.
you know, there was like,
no, it wasn't severe.
then you want some clothes.
You ain't getting it right.
Stop there. It's a natural thing. Witness or what? I said what? Sorry, whiteness.
I know from the Hebrews, they don't know what you want. But here they've got pavement. Pavement. Don't know why. And I noticed Strauss is clever. He doesn't give a definition. Just says it down.
Oh, yeah. Nice spelling change. What did I do?
It's just the tea.
Oh, I saw.
Okay, one of the definitions they've got for Livna here is pavement. White pavement.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to.
I can understand the white, because the white, how do you say white in Hebrew? The light.
But actually, the pictographic would probably give you more close.
I mean, that each one will give you a different thing. So it's not just one description, it's going to be 3 or 4. So if you're going to take this in the you're going to sit for a bit. Yeah. I'll tell you what we should do.
Now we need the money. Yeah.
We're very good at the suffering value after that.
We get this thing about what's an apple. You know, just as the it's a good picture space.
Imagine trying to write down all the notes you go through in that book.
Every time you go through it,
Interesting, isn't it?
some go through it's not a nail.
Yeah,
Sticky nice. Another on the top of it.
that's for organized people. Mine looks like a roadmap to able to try. I was solution right on the sides of the marches around coming in.
You need to remember this one.
Exactly, and that's without making links, it's just getting information. You want to move it up to the top right.
Worship, verb, forgiveness, praise. Yeah.
Look how studious everybody is now. It's amazing. Force people to do their homework while they sit
So if
here.
anyone steals your notes, you will help them.
No, I feel sorry for you kids.
Come back to that.
Clear off this.
I don't understand this chapter. Study this.
He writes it in the same way that Talmud writes.
something to do.
From Makeda, I've got Place of Shepherds.
We'll fill it out. Let's write everything down first. Who's that supposed to be? Why don't you be shy? Excuse me.
Why do you have to stand up?
That giant wooden block is in that view.
So I did that in house study electricity in front of the drawing. Trying to see many finishes and then I saw drawing that. Now there is a picture.
Yeah.
Maybe that is like pictures and stuff.
Can't you see the bush? Which one you on? So, it's an egg song.
No, I've got no.
Here's measure. Or Charlie. Or Gomez. Interesting.
Is that complacent? Is it complacent? Yes.
That's right, that's C usually.
I was wrote it wrong.
That was right. Alright, take 2 minutes, finish on that. And then we're going to add in some other definitions. When we're done, just see this go.
Too hard by I like Yes.
You got your notes back? You read?
I'm looking at the pure clean donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be it.
It's a wild donkey or pure or
How do you
don't push your hands. Don't say hands. Only knees.
pure and clean? Okay, wild donkey.
And look at that.
Look at that.
Maybe there was supposed to be pure and clean.
Start with pure and clean.
And a wild
Maybe there
donkey.
was supposed to be pure and clean, but there was not.
It's a Asian song. You can choose young grasshopper.
They came from pure and clean.
And then we go and unclean. That's unusual. Start to see it. Alright, are we all more or less? Alright. Any other ones for the guys that do their homework? Any other sort of different ones that we can add into the mix?
I've got from Dubai, I can't see over there.
The verb is oracle or word.
I've got August for a cause and orator.
Argues. Okay.
August for a cause.
Okay.
Orator.
Alright. I think smaller oracle or yeah, that will be fine. Anything else?
Door is a dwelling.
Therefore, door, dwelling.
Dwelling.
Okay. More or less happy?
En voor leuk, nou, ik word paved foundation.
Yeah. You say foundation. Yeah? More or less? Okay. So, obviously when you look at certain things, obviously once you guys start looking at this, things should pop out, right? If you look at Jericho, what was it about Jericho that made it a place of fragrance to God? It was first fruits, and it was completely burnt out. Okay? So, you already have an indication of what God is trying to tell you. I was a ruin, right? Who ruined it? The household of God. Yes? Okay? God will provide peace. Where? In Jerusalem. That's what its name literally means. Hebron, what happened in Hebron? What's in Hebron today? Cave of Machpelah. Okay, so you've got the cave of the patriarchs. They made an alliance. They made a covenant. Right? God will provide peace through the alliance, through the covenant. Everything that you have is a foundation layer upon layer upon layer. The only reason Moses and them were sitting at Mount Sinai is because of something that happened to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. The only reason Joshua is taking the promised land is because something that happened to Moses that happened to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Are you following me? Everything is being put into place so that they can go into it. Alright? You can say, because of that you will bring fearing, respect of God, or throw down the one who walks, one with a heifer or the chariot. So throw down Egypt, or you can say, the fearing which you walk brings you, what does a heifer do? Depends on which heifer we're talking about. If we're talking about the red heifer, which is quite often picked up, that's used for purification. Right? Purification of what specifically? Touching anything that's dead. Right, so anything that you have touched that is being dead or defiled, you need to take a red heifer and so on. Okay? Gezer, you can say the dividing or a portion of the word, which will be your wall.
Can I add something?
Sure.
See, maybe through fearing, they went through the land, so they walked it.
Mm-hmm.
And like a heifer purified, they went to purify the land.
Absolutely. Right? The word will create a wall. Devoted, consecrated to God. What happened at home?
We got destroyed.
Pastor's fingers first. Who's got Google? There was a story that happened with Moses. While he was looking there. Arad.
Was that circumcision?
No.
No.
Arad, something pure clean, or something as steadfast as a donkey, or strong as a donkey. Libna comes from Laban, which will be pure or white, will set the foundation. Adullam, a hiding place for worship, okay, or for their testimony, worship, okay, and if they didn't, obviously burning crookedness. You will worship in the house of God. Tapuach, alright, apple, the fruit. What does he remind you of when he talks about an apple? Israel is the apple of his eye. Okay. Digger, set of his fortress will be his strength. Okay, it will be a song or his plan. Right, through his measure or through the garment or through chiding, you will be enclosed environment maybe, you will bring out the correct measure in court, or the correct measure of food, the place of his watching, right? Yeah. Okay, you could be guarding against sorcery, poison, tricks of the enemy. He who humbles thee or answers thee, God will answers. It will be his precious fruit, or they will be declaring the message. They will stay in his sanctuary. The people will inquire, or they will possess the dwelling, or through the generations there will be that foundation, and they will into that covenant again at the place where they will continue established, and through that they will be pleasing.
Adullam is that cave where like a kid as well, isn't it?
Possible.
Is the cave
No,
where-
that is the cave.
Okay, so there's Adullam.
Adullam, third one in the middle.
Okay, so a place of hiding,
It's David.
David hid there. Alright, did anybody find out more about?
Yes.
Edmund.
The Amalekites came down, and the Canaanites which dwelt in that hill, and smote them, discomfited them, even unto honor.
Right. What brought them, those who were consecrated actually got destroyed? Why? What happened in that story?
Didn't they exiting Egypt and then...
Well, let's close.
In Judges 1 verse 7, it refers to the 310 kings having their thumbs and their great toes cut off, gathered near the table, and so that's what it refers to. Yes.
Yeah, I'm referring to the one before that. Yeah, Moses in it. God says, you will not go up, you will not go into the land, turn around and go back.
Oh.
And then they said, no, we've decided we'll go up. And then he said, don't go up, God is not with you. And they went up anyway, and then they got beaten all the way back too. Alright. So again, the time when you decide you don't want to go with God when he says go, and then when he says stay, and then you want to go, you've got problems. For me, this is a very interesting place. Because the whole time they keep on moaning, they keep on saying the same thing. What do they keep on saying? Oh, that we died in? Egypt. If we could only go back to Egypt, the food was better in Egypt. Everything is okay, Egypt. And then Allah says, stop, turn around. Where have I been coming from?
Now you're going back.
And then he says, I heard you. Go. And that's when they go, no, it's fine. No, don't think it. No, it's fine. We'll go. What does that tell you? What do you do when you're in a difficult situation? You grumble, you moan, you say things were better before, etc. Nostalgia's funny, isn't it? How many of you, when you decided to become a believer, you started to come into this walk, there were easier times behind you. Right? And why does it have to be so difficult? Why do we have to go through this refining? Why doesn't Allah just open up the storehouses while I'm doing His will? What is the problem? Is He with me? Is He not? And we start to challenge, we start to question not only Him, and this was a big thing for me. We don't question that He can, we question that He wants to. So you're not even questioning that He's able, you're questioning His love for you. So you're challenging His very desire to have you. He pulled you out of Egypt, He's brought you onto Himself, He's invested Himself, He died for you, He got you here, He showed you truth, He pulled you out, He's invested in you, He's gotten you to this place, and then you say, you don't love me. Why would I have brought you out? Why would I have invested in you? Why would I have taught you by my word? Why would I have lifted you up? Why would I have pulled you away from all those things so that I could teach you, I can be a light to you, I can be here with you, and then you say, I don't love you. That's like investing in your child, going through feeding them, clothing them, protecting them, getting them ready, they get to varsity, and they get their jobs and all the rest of it, and they say, you never loved me. I did all those things because I disliked you. You see, we don't see the investment. We don't see the work. And Abba goes all the way up to that point when he gets them there, and then they turn around and they start to question the fact. And this is also a very important place. Maybe it's pivotal for you right now. A lot of us have received confirmations, reaffirmations. When he says move, we move. This is what happens when you don't. Right? When his camp moves, you move. No question you're going to ask, you go. Because the best place for you is with him. Right? Let's not be like Israelites. Let's not put up a fight. Because, again, they grumbled about provision. Right? That was most of it. And he goes, I've got provision for you. It's over there. But you refuse to move there. So how are you supposed to get it? Right? We take and we want to latch onto things that we can control. The problem with Jericho is that he didn't trust God enough to be able to get more spoil later. Achan took spoil now. So there's a time of first fruits. There's a time of relaxing. There's a time of trusting that God will take care of the rest. Do you really believe I can do this for you? And let me. These guys are going to war. We've spoken a couple of, you had Jericho, you had Ai, then you had this northern coalition, southern coalition led by the king of Jerusalem. Remember the Adoni-Tzedek. They come out, he draws them out. They should have, in all their fleshly self, gone, this is too much, this is too big. We're out of here. They're attacking Gibeon. I'm not worried about them. Let's move quietly. It's not directed at us just yet. God upholds a covenant. They swore incorrectly, brings them to the place, pulls out one of his biggest miracles by stopping the solar system from moving for a day, just so that he can defeat and protect the people that are not his people. He's going to go that far for them, how far for you? Then the southern coalition, Chatzor gets up and he goes, that's it. The king Adoni-Tzedek couldn't handle it. We're going to take care of this. 200 acres of city. When you go to Chatzor, the first thing you see when you walk in there is a palace. The king was powerful. And he develops a northern coalition and he says, all right, let's go. As many as sand of the seashore. And in their fleshly selves, they should have said, no way, can't deal with this, let's bounce. And others says, don't fear them. They've come out, they've just made your job easier. Let them come. They're not hiding behind their walls. We don't have to go and lay siege for months and years. I've just shortened the time of conquest dramatically. So he's going to pull them out and he's going to get them space and he's going to, so that they can go, and then they laid siege. And even when they laid siege, conquered in a day, conquered in a day, conquered in a day. And God is expanding territory ridiculously fast. And these guys are growing and growing and growing in faith. But in the midst of these battles, let's get to our chapter 13. Chapter 12 obviously talks about, let me read the build-up to the kings that we have behind us. These are the kings of the land whom the people of Israel defeated, and on whose land they took possession, across the Jordan, towards the east, from the Arnon Valley to Mount Hermon, and all the Arava eastward. Everything that God said would happen, happened. They defeated them, they took possession. Sichon, the king of the Amorite, who lived in Heshbon and ruled in the territory, includes Aroer, the edge of the Arnon Valley. Now remember, Sichon and Og are such a big defeat that Jericho and them also start to get nervous. These guys were strong. Remember the king of Bashan, Og, he had a rather large bed. So he was considered Anakim. Okay, I think it was made of iron, and if I remember correctly, it was 8 foot or 9 foot. Jump down to verse 6. Moshe, the servant of Adonai, the people of Israel defeated them, and Moshe, the servant of Adonai, gave it to Reubeni, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh as their possession. The following kings of the land whom Joshua with the people of Israel defeated in the area west of the Yarden, between Baal Gad and Lebanon Valley, and the bare mountain that goes up to Seir. It's an interesting place, eh? Between Baal Gad, the Lord of God, and remember that one of the chief deities that they're facing is who? Baal. Alright, what does Baal mean again?
Lord, or
Husband or Lord, specifically landlord. Okay? So, his land, his people. Don't get confused between which husband you serve and whose land it really is. And the other one, he says, goes up to Seir. Now, Seir is a place for what? For which people?
Elamite?
Edomites, right, Edomites. It was part of their mountain. That was where they set up their foundations and their high places. So from one fake deity to the next. Joshua gave the land inhabited by the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivi, and the Yebusi. How many tribes? Or how many peoples? Yeah?
6.
Yeah, why is it 6 when there's actually 7? Remember in the beginning of Joshua, it says there's 7 nations. What does 6 represent? Man. Right, so what the kingdom of man is going to do. To the tribes of Israel to possess according to their divisions, the hills, the Shephelah, the Arava, the mountain slopes, the desert, and the Negev. It's rather funny. When you go to the Shephelah, it's lush and beautiful. The Arava mountains, it's like the Judean mountains, it's part of the desert. The slopes, the desert, and the Negev. Well, the desert and the Negev and the Arava are all pretty much the same thing. One place of beauty and lushness, and 3 places, God of the wilderness stuff. Why is that important to a people? Right, remember, what did Moses say? What did Moses say? Do you remember how Moses described the wilderness?
Great and awesome.
Great and awesome wilderness. Now, this is not a place he particularly enjoyed compared to the lushness of Egypt, so why would he call it the great and wonderful or great and awesome wilderness?
Because that was where they really saw God shepherding them.
Right. Right, that's where we learned about God. That's where we walked in. Now remember, sometimes when you get pulled out of the places where you come from, you're going to walk through a wilderness to go have a covenant Sinai moment to be able to get to the other side of the wilderness before you get into your promise. But you're not ready for your promise unless you stop at your Sinai. And then you're not ready for that unless you walk through your wilderness. So there are times of wilderness wanderings that we struggle and we get refined, and you shouldn't survive, and yet you do. That's one of the biggest testimonies about this place. He became known as the God of the wilderness. We see prophets, we see Yeshua, we see everybody going out into the wilderness. Why? When you can sit in the Galilee and you can sit in the lush valleys and the Shephelah and the Jezreel, then why would you want to go there?
Because you're comfortable in the nice place and you need to get out of your comfort zone.
I don't know if it's just comfort zone.
That's where you get to meet him.
Why?
Because out there you can hear yourself think. You can listen for his word.
Yeah.
And you know, like when we were standing at Solomon's Pillars, it was just different.
There's a lovely description that Elijah gives us. It says that soft, still voice. You know, it says that there was a rushing wind and he wasn't there, and there was an earthquake and he wasn't there, and then he heard a soft voice. And there he was. We get so busy, we get so pushed, we're in this chaotic race of things, and what do you have? Distraction, noise. You don't get to hear it. And you're so busy grumbling. You know one of the biggest reasons we don't hear God's voice? Because we don't stop talking. What do we normally pray for? What is it that they're busy asking for? Fix this, do this, deal with this. Isn't that generally the wish list that we give? Yeah, comfort. But refining requires you to be uncomfortable. Refining requires you to get ready to be able to take hold of it and stand firm. you can, and again, Joshua is a book of setting your feet. There's a battle. What are you going to do? Set your feet. Any martial arts instructor or soldier or whatever will talk to you about balance. Because if you're off balance, you can't hit. If you're off balance, you can't take the hit. So to be able to set your feet, knowing that there's a fight coming, knowing that you're going to have to, you've got your armor on, you set your stance and you're looking forward, knowing that there's refining, knowing that there's going to be a push, knowing that this is going to be difficult, knowing that you're going to get tired. But remember, the one who's standing there next to you never tires, never slumbers. He's the one that's holding you up. But you need to set your feet. We need to be able just to stand firm in what we believe, to be able to take and move when He moves, to be able to receive the inheritance which He wants to give us. Okay? So, Joshua 13. Now Joshua was old, the years have taken their toll. Alright, describe Moses.
Full of vigor. 20 years old and still sprightly and strong.
Still full of vigor and fire, and his eye did not dim. His mind was still sound. And here we have old Joshua saying, and the years have taken their toll. What does that tell you?
Lots of anger.
He's tired.
He's tired. Tired from what?
Fighting.
Fighting. Fighting is going to pull it out. Let me give you a word to the wise. Fighting against God is going to make it worse. You're playing tug of war. He's not even pulling yet. You're going to make yourself very tired. And when you do, He's going to smile and He's going to look at you and go, are you coming now? Adonai said to him, you are old. And the years have taken their toll. But there is yet a great deal of land to be possessed. So we have this group of people. They've conquered and conquered and conquered and conquered and conquered and conquered and conquered. If we look at the, more or less, I'll go into it next week if you want me to, but we're looking at about a time period that we'll get from the next chapter of about 7.5 years of fighting. 7.5 years of battle. What does God do in the beginning? Come sit at Gilgal. Come sit at Gilgal. Come sit at Gilgal. But Abba, we need to go. No, you need to rest. We've got a lot of boxing to do, my boy. You need to take a break. But we need this done, and this done, and that done, and this done, and this done. He said, no, my time. Sit down. Relax. The war will come. Are you going to be ready for it? Those battles, are you going to be able to stand? Because you're keeping yourself so busy that you're not relaxed enough to be able to take that fight. Again, burnout is a real thing. Whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, people who get ready for any sort of physical activity need to watch for burnout. You need that Shabbat. You need that time to sit at His feet. You need to listen to His word. That's how you get strong. That's how you regroup. And when the enemy starts to throw arrows, that's where you hide. The battle is won like Moses won it. Hands lifted up.
Even
This
when
is-
you're studying, for an exam, a day or two before, you're actually supposed to stop and just relax.
You should. But we don't. This is the land that still remains. All the regions of the Philistine. Okay, Philistines have 5 kingdoms. Right now, one most popular that you hear in the news is Gaza. Right? So, the Philistine have not been conquered yet. The Gushri, the Sichor, which fronts Egypt, to the border of Ekron, northward from the land that is considered to belong to the Kenani. This is the territory of rulers of the Philistine of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gad, Ekron, also the Avim to the south. All the land of the Kenani, Merah, which belongs to the Sidonim, as far as Afek, and onto the border with the Emori, the land of Givli and Lebanon eastward, and Baal-Gad at the foot of Mount Hermon to the entrance of Chumut. Sounds like they've done a fantastic job of carrying out about 70% of what they need. As for the inhabitants of the hills between Lebanon and Misrot Mayim, that is all the Sidonim, I myself will expel them ahead of the people of Israel. All you have to do is assign it to Israel as an inheritance, as I have ordered you. So now divide up this land as an inheritance, so that the 9.5 tribes, or the 9 tribes and a half tribe of Manasseh. So God already acknowledges that. He says, don't worry about it, just claim it, and then go and stand there, and don't worry, it will be yours. God, again, fights Israel's battles. When the half tribe of Manasseh, the Reubeni and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Moshe had given them, beyond the Yarden eastward, just as Moshe, the servant of Adonai, had given them, from Elul, on the edge of Arnon Valley, and the city of the middle of the valley, all the plateau between Midvah and Divon, and all the cities of Sichon, king of the Emori, who ruled in Heshbon to the border of the people of Ammon, and Gilead, territory of the Gushri, Marchati, all Mount Hermon, all Bashan as far as Salcha, that is the kingdom of Og in Bashan, who ruled in Ashtaroth. That should be an indication. What is an Ashtaroth?
Female deity.
Female deity. And Edrei. Og was one of them remaining from the Rephaim, whom Moses defeated and expelled. However, the people of Israel expelled neither the Gishri nor the Melchiti, with the consequence of Geshur and Machat have lived among Israel to this day. So by the time the book was later compiled in Joshua's time, or maybe into the time of Ezra, there were still people living in the land. Only to the tribe of Levi did Moshe give no inheritance, because the offerings made by fire for Adonai, the God of Israel, are its inheritance, as Adonai had said to Moshe. Is that all they get? Offerings?
No, they got cities.
One
as well.
They got cities and
Levitical
lands as well.
cities. How many Levitical cities?
3.
Fastest fingers first. You have how many cities of refuge?
The first 3, then there were the second 3.
You've got 6 cities of refuge. You do not have 6 Levitical cities. See if you can find out how many Leviticals they said. And to throw a spanner into the works, the cities of refuge were Levitical cities. Isn't that nice? Have a look and see what you get. Moshe gave land to the tribe of the descendants of Reuben by clans. Their territory included Aror to the edge of the Arnon Valley, the city of the middle, the valley of the plateau near Medvah, Heshbon and its villages on the plateau, Divon, Bamut Baal, Bet Ba'almon, Yachatz, Kedmot, Mefat, Kiryat Yarim, Sivnat, Zeret, Sachar at the top of the valley, Bet Piror, at the slopes of Pisgah, Bet Yishmot, all the cities of the plateau, all the kingdom of Sichon, the kingdom of Israel, who ruled in Heshbon. Moshe defeated them with the chiefs of Midian, with Evi, Rekam, Tzur, Gur, Reva, princes of Sichon who lived in the land, along with the others. Neither the people of Israel killed with the sword, they also struck down Balaam, the son of Beor, who practiced divination.
That man.
Wow!
He did.
Place, Balaam. What do you know about Balaam?
Balaam and Balak. He was the divine prophet for hire, basically.
Right, he was a Gentile sorcerer. And there's a very interesting portion. When you read about Balak and Balaam, is you'll see that he spoke to God himself. And we stop and we go, why would God talk to a Gentile sorcerer?
To use him for that very purpose.
Right, God met him where he was. And we have an interesting little play here. Your God, prophet for hire, I will give stuff to your God to turn his eyes so that he can stay away or walk away from their offerings, and thus allowing me to overcome them. And we see some very interesting things. Remember, Balaam is the guy who if we can make a funny say, inspired Shrek. When his donkey spoke to him, His donkey had more sense than he did. But there's a very interesting sort of battle plan that goes on there. I'll go into it very quickly. Balaam gets recruited, says come, he says I can't come, and if I do come, God says I'm not allowed to, but if I do, I only have to say what he says. So he sends higher, newer guys or higher guys, and they come and they say come again, and he says no, we'll stay here. Even if you give me a palace full of, or a household full of silver, I can't do anything that this Adonai says. So even if you give me a house full of silver, I can't go with you. Why would he mention that?
Right.
That's my price. So he's doing some sneaky Middle Eastern negotiating. God says to them, if these guys summon you, go with them. And he gets up the next morning, he packs his donkey, climbs on, and he goes for a gingerly ride, telling the other guys behind to keep up. And then he meets what we call Michael. Right? There's an angel ready to strike him, and the donkey dodges him, and hurts him in the process, and eventually the angel puts himself in his path so that he cannot go further. Now, God told him he could go, right? So why then is he sending an angel against him? Remember, this is a guy who's claiming fame of, give me a household full of silver. Do you think he had servants? Probably. Did they summon him and say, you all go with us or else? No. He saddled his own donkey and he climbed on himself and he went gingerly riding off to go and face God. And the battle plan and the battle lines were drawn. Meet my captain and you and your donkey, and the donkey has more sense than you do. And he tells him to go. But be careful not to say anything that is not of me. So, long story short, he gets there, says, don't worry, I'm going to sort your issue out, I'm going to get paid. Starts from one point, gives offerings. Again, offerings like Israel would have given offerings. And then instead of cursing him, blessing comes out. Goes to a different place. Same story. And then by the third time he's like, God doesn't want me to curse these people, I can only pronounce blessing. And then Balak says, okay, you need to run away because I told you you need to curse these people and all you've done is bless them. And Balaam gives him a lasting little piece of advice when he leaves. And we only find out a couple of chapters later. What was Balaam's advice?
Send the Midianite woman.
Send a Midianite woman. If God's not going to change his mind about blessing them, then you have to make them detestable in the eyes of their God. There's something interesting about this portion there. Is that the entire time Israel is unaware to the battle that's going on. And what does they say? Part of the blessing is, oh, how perfect are your tents. How beautiful are your tents. It's a weird thing, but we know a couple of chapters before that, all the grumbling, all the moaning, all the argy-bargy, all the nonsense, and Moses and then pulling his hair out, and he's like, these people are driving me crazy. But then from the outside perspective, he calls them beautiful. Who was fighting the battle? Where were they? Were they concerned that their destruction was around the corner? No, they were completely clueless. And yet God was already on the other side saying, don't touch my people. I find that exciting. Sometimes we don't even know how those fighting battles, sorting people out. They brought the worst guy you could possibly get. This guy is well known for his sorcery, all the rest of it. Whoever he blesses, they blessed. Whoever he curses, they cursed. A counterfeit to God himself. And all of a sudden you get this bad guy pulling there and God says, be very careful. And only thing this guy can pronounce is blessing. It's an amazing thing where a guy like that would have a meeting with God and people stop and ask the question, why would God just meet them? And it says, in the Hebrew it says he happened upon him. He stumbled across this God who was real. God stops it and he meets this man at his knees, a Gentile prophet for hire. And the rabbis say something interesting. He says, no, the Gentiles don't have an excuse. In Balaam can have a meeting with God, anybody can. Anyway,
That's for cities. 48.
48 Levitical cities, do you concur?
That's what Wikipedia says.
Wikipedia, will you look at that verse?
It's Numbers 35.
Numbers 35. The Yarden formed the border for the descendants of Reuben. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Reuben by clans and its cities and its villages. Moshe gave land to the tribe of Gad, to the descendants of Gad by its clans. Their territory, including Yahazer, the cities of Gilad, half the land of the people of Ammon, as far as Arul, fronting Rabbah, that is from Heshbon to Ramat Mishpah and Betomim, and from Mechanaim to the border of Levi, while in the valley it included Bet Haram, Bet Limah, Sukkot, Safon, and in other words, the rest of the kingdom of Sichon of Heshbon, and the Yarden, the far end of Lake Kinnoret and its border, the Galilee, that their territory extended eastward. This is the inheritance of the descendants of Gad by its clans, with its cities and its villages. Moshe gave the inheritance to the half-tribe of Manasseh for the half-tribe of the descendants of Manasseh by clans. Their territory included Mechanaim and all of Bashan, and that is all the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, all the villages of Yair in Bashan, 60 cities. Half of Gilead and Ashtaroth and Idri, the cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All this was for the descendants of Machir, the son of Manasseh, and rather for half of the descendants of Machir by clans. These are the inheritance which Moshe distributed in the plains of Moab, beyond the Yarden and Jericho eastward. But the tribe of Levi, Moshe gave no inheritance. Adonai, the God of Israel, is their inheritance, as he told them. So what did you finalize about the Levitical cities?
48.
48.
6 cities of refuge.
It says among them, it still says the Levites will get those 6 cities, even though they're cities of refuge.
Yes, that's what I said.
So it's 48 plus the 6.
So it's 48 in total.
No, 6 is included in this.
Is it included in the 48?
In total it will be 48.
Yeah.
Verse 6, you read from verse.
So if that's their inheritance, if they get fullness of 48 cities and 6 of them are cities of refuge, remember, why do I need a city of refuge? If I accidentally kill someone, I go and I stay there for a while, and then the while is how long? When can I go back to my family? Until the high priest dies. What does that tell you?
You have to give up your old life. You have to give up your family.
You have to kill the high priest. There's no loophole. No. The high priest has, even in his death, has restoration written in his his last will and testament, in his legacy. Remember, when Yeshua died, who did he set free to go back to his family? Whose cross was it for? To start at the story. Who? Barnabas. Yeshua Barnabas. One Yeshua places another Yeshua. That was his name. Right? He allows him to go home to his family. He restores him back to a house. And in the same way, when Yeshua's dead, there is this redemption that takes place. Remember, the blood avenger is called the Ga'al. Ga'al means, if you break it down pictographically, to gather to El. So again, that job of a high priest, that which is to redeem, to gather to him, is to gather him back into his house. Right? So these cities of refuge, 6 of, evenly distributed, is for anybody to flee to the Levite. What are you doing in the Levitical city? What do you think they're doing? You're going to know a lot about offerings, a lot about sin, a lot about stuff, a lot about first fruits, a lot about things, because they have to know it. Right? You do not understand your function if you're supposed to be a kingdom of priests, surely not a Levitical priesthood, you don't have to worry about which animal piece goes where. But you do need to understand the function of it so I can understand how to help people. What does a Levitical priest do?
Takes the people to God and takes God to the
Brings
people.
people back to.
Right? Brings them to, all right? And we're going to go into this a little bit. We've got 10 minutes, one. As someone comes in, they come up to the Mishkan. What does the Mishkan represent? Okay, different things. One, if you look at the three places, it's a parallel between our body, but you are the temple. The heart of God is to dwell with man. Emmanuel. He will dwell with you. Sukkot. Right? So he's going to sukkah with you, and he's going to sit and he's going to be in that position. In that position is to bring something called an offering. An offering, in many times, gives you atonement. Atonement comes from where?
From Teshuvah.
Oh, not just Teshuvah. Give me scripture, man. Where do we see the first idea of a covering taking place? Adam and Eve, right? As they got kicked out of Gan Eden, an animal died, they received new clothes. Something died to take your place. This is going to cover your nakedness. What does nakedness mean in Hebrew?
Shame.
Your shame. Right. So I'm going to cover your shame, but something has to die to take its place. You're out of Gan Eden, where you dwelt with God, Emmanuel. And this Mishkan facing back towards Gan Eden is now going to bring us into that restoration again. But there's only one way through. There's a gate, you see. What do we do at the gate? Confess your sins. Press yourself onto the offering. Your sins leave you and they go onto something else. Give me a depiction. Yeshua is the way in, right? And when did he get the pressing of sins? The Garden of Gethsemane. It's the place of the oil press, or the place of the pressing. That's what Gad Shemen literally means. They put a big weight on him. He was pressed 3 times. Why? Sins, past, present, and future. Okay, for people that are still here, we were after his time. He knew it was going to cover us, and his anointing was pressed out. His blood becomes a kapara. What does kapara mean? Not just covering, but it also means to draw near to God. So if I draw near to him through the offering and through confession of my sin, and this is something that should happen at your first mikvah, right? You need to die so that you can become free. You confess you don't want to be that guy anymore. You take responsibility that those sins were yours. No one else's. The devil didn't make you do it. You did that all by yourself. You take hold of that animal and you believe with every fiber in your being that that will go to a certain spot. What is the next space of that animal? To the cliff?
I'm thinking of circles.
Yeah, come back to the bottom, eh? Yeah, you've got to get it close to the altar first, right? Because this is a big animal. You need to slit its throat at the brazen altar. Brazen altar represents judgment, okay? The judgment of God needs to take place. Something is going to take it. You or this, your choice. Right? Baruch Hashem for Yeshua, right? And then we take it and something dies so that the wrath of God, the horns of the altar, his very strength gets pointed away. But there's something else. The hide and all those things, depending on the offering, stays there. It doesn't go further. What goes further in? The blood. The blood goes further down. Right? Remember, the blood that atones. That goes into his presence. That goes further. Judgment and death stay here. Right. I wash at the laver. I go into the holy place. And because of the offering, because of the judgment that has taken place, and because of his atoning sacrifice, I can step into the Holy of Holies. And into that Holy of Holies, I will see God in his 7 spirits. I will gain wisdom. And what else are the 7 spirits? Isaiah 11. Counsel, understanding, reverence for God, him himself, the very essence of God, the central candle, the shamash, the servant. And that is going to bring light into my life. It's going to illuminate through the Mashiach, through the anointing, and I'm going to be able to eat of the bread of heaven. His provision, the table of showbread, is literally the bread of His presence. From there, I have the opportunity, and again, there's, at the time of Mishkan, it wasn't me going forward. I'm trusting that this is happening, taking place, that the high priest would then put incense. What does incense represent?
Sweet fragrance.
Pray.
All his nostrils.
Pray. It is intercessory.
An altar of incense is the only other altar that gives light.
Yeah, until you're before.
Yeah.
Is it also praise and thanksgiving?
Yes, it does. But in the case of when I'm confessing of my sin, a Levite's job is to help me go from the entrance to the parochet. Right? If God has got you in this function and He says, I want you to act like a kingdom of priests, what is your function? I'm not here to give you speeches. I'm not here to give you pep talks. I'm not here to do it. I'm here to deal with your sin. And if I can deal with your sin, God can take you into His presence. God can draw you into the place. You will see Him, in a way that people don't get to see Him outside of the parochet. But first you have to deal with your sin. Then you move forward into it so that you and Him can dwell together. You can literally be sitting there, and there's a very interesting contextual difference. You know what I said when I'm in the parochet? The parochet is the curtain between the Ark of the Covenant with the two cherubim, and that's the mercy seat where God sits, and the incense altar. And in one section of the book you'll have the start of the Holy of Holies is actually on the incense altar, and in the other part is it's on the other side. Now, many discussions and many debates have gone place, but I find that you'll probably find that the solution to it is yes and yes. Because for the high priest to go in, he has to take the incense in, and the smoke goes before him. Before you come into the presence and you sit at the Father, what do? What are you doing? You're praying. And that beautiful incense is what steps up before Him, and you intercede on behalf of the people. But you're going to take responsibility for where you were at the gate. Now, Yeshua does all of those steps with you for you to get you to that place. The inheritance of the Levite is God Himself. He says, don't worry about the land stuff, guys. Don't worry about whether or not you're going to have enough food, guys. Don't worry about that stuff. And we sort of see this echo in Mashiach when He's talking to His Talmidim. He says, well, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but I don't even have a place to rest my head. Is the body not more than food or clothing? He says, why are you stressing about this stuff? You've got a job to do. Your job is to be with me. Your job is to learn with me. Your job is to help people understand who I am. And when they understand that, they can come into that Mishkan. They can come into that right relationship with God. That is the inheritance. And remember, I told you, Joshua is about a physical inheritance. Acts talks about a spiritual inheritance. Are you starting to see that link? Come into the land and dwell with my God. Receive the Ruach and dwell with Him. Accept Yeshua as an atonement offering so that you can move forward. And stay there. And then, when you look at Revelations, it comes into, it says, there is a physical New Jerusalem, there is a new heaven, there's a new earth, there's a new body for those who want it. But you're also going to have the Ruach, and you're also going to have Emmanuel, and you're also going to dwell with Him forever. If you want it. Now, isn't that a funny invitation? Stay outside the camp and receive destruction. Enter His presence and receive life. What defines it?
Obedience.
Faith. God is real. My faith that He is real will get me to act a certain way. It will lead me into my obedience. And when I walk in obedience, I perform His mitzvot, and His mitzvot brings smiles to Daddy's face, and I can stay with Daddy as long. But you have a choice to make. You choose now where you want to be led. This inheritance is so focused, and you lead about cities, and you go, and let's face it, by the time you get through the fourth list of what city and what where, you don't care. You don't know. But if it was me telling you that the tribe of Edat received inheritance from Edenvale to Benoni, and from Benoni we went all the way to the other side of Rappan, and we came all the way around. That's your land. Don't worry about the work. Don't worry about the land. Don't worry about the cities. All the houses are yours. All of it. You know those big factories that those guys have been building? That's all yours. Don't stress about it. Go in and take it. Why? Why do we get all this stuff? There's harvesting. Oh, don't worry, it's all been sown. The storehouses are still full. Okay, come on, enjoy it. And he goes, I'm giving all this to you. This is yours. This is yours for the taking. Why? Because I want you to be with me. And when you're here, I want you to remind the people why you're here. Remember, it started off with first fruits. You saw what it is. One turns into ruin. Bethel, you're the house of God. I will provide my peace. That's where God is going to be. But it's all because of a covenant. We need to understand your inheritance is set. Don't get so fixated on this stuff that we forget the greatest gift that the Levites ever received was not the 48 cities, was not the little tracts of land, was not the offerings, but was that God said to them, you're mine. I am your inheritance. You're either going to be of the world or you're going to belong to Him. Now remember, Yeshua is the high priest of the highest order. He doesn't just talk about an earthly tabernacle, he talks about a heavenly one. And when he says you sit at the feet of the Father, he's not just using a euphemism where you're sitting over there and you're going, oh wow. He's saying your inheritance is not here, stop looking for it here, it's over there. But there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a refining. But the essence of it all, you will have a place with me. Amen? Amen. All right. Prayer time is every time.